Setting.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing? I hope you guys are doing well. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties because we're not hearing the sound through our computer. We're hearing it through a secondary computer. So please let us know in the chat if you can hear us okay. We can see that you're watching, and so we're so happy that you're here. Welcome, 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 everyone. How you
Welcome.
doing? What's up, guys? My name's Halisi.
And I'm Rick from our Black Utopia.
On this channel, we talk about money, we talk about travel and retiring abroad. So if you woke up one day and you looked in the mirror and like, oh God, we're getting close to retirement and we ain't got no money saved. Oops. That was us.
Yeah.
If you are one of those people, hey, we can help you out, get your finances straight so you can retire on time.
And maybe even early.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, and maybe even early.
Was that corny?
She always messing with me.
Okay. All right. Look, we've got Tim. Hey there. How are you? Look, good to see you, Tim. Good to see you. And we've got...
Hey,
who's
Tim.
that? Sandra is checking in from Denver. We're in Denver still until... Well, we don't know. Probably until about May
And you
5th
know,
or so.
Tim is going to Portugal too. He's going to be there in the fall.
Tim's going to Portugal?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Try to talk his dad into going.
All right. Oh, great. Thank you, Celeste. Thank you. So we were switching things out and everything. So I couldn't hear. Anyway, we're going to get right into it. What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about the American dream.
Right. How we have not given up
Not
on the
yet.
American dream.
Not yet.
Not quite. So this is a little clickbaity in that we watched some videos from some of our favorite YouTubers like Timothy Ward, The Upgrade, and Alicia Renice, the artist. And they have there's other folks too.
Is she related to Prince?
I don't know, but she's just as talented as Prince.
Okay.
All right. Yes, she is. All right. So, and if you haven't checked her out, go check her out, Alicia Renice, the artist. Anyway, so they've all done videos talking about they've given up on the American dream. And as an American, if I give up on the American dream, what else is there but a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so the first thing that I thought of is to look up the original definition of the American dream. All right. Because the way we're using it today is not quite the way it was originally created. So get this. It was originally created back in the 1800s. The term, the American dream, was originally created back in the 1800s during the Gilded Age. And if you don't know what the Gilded Age it is the late 1800s, when you had property barons like the Rockefellers and folks like that who had a lot of money, and then 90% of the rest of the population had very little. All right.
Kind of like today.
Yeah, we're getting close to that today, right? The haves and the have-nots. We see this in other countries, and it's not sustainable. So the idea of the American dream was the idea that we could have equality, we could have justice and fairness within the economic system. And so that was the original idea of the American dream.
Right.
And then later on, in the early part of last century, like the 1920s or so, a book was written by an author whose name is James Thoreau Adams, I believe. And he is the one who coined the phrase as we kind of know it today. In that book, what he was talking about as the American dream was the idea that we were not in a caste system like they were in Europe, right? You remember, we are a nation of basically degenerates and rejects from England, right? Who got sent here. Because if you had it going on in England, hey, those folks, if they had it going on in England, did they come here? No, they did not. All right. So in England, there was a caste system. You were born into a certain family, a certain station in life, and that's pretty much where you remained. And that was guaranteed. So the idea of the American dream was the idea that whatever station you were born in, you were not relegated to stay there, that there were opportunities and systems in place in this country so that you were not relegated to stay in that certain caste.
Right.
Which I find very interesting for a country that was built on chattel slavery. But I digress. We ain't gonna get into politics today, right? So the American dream was the idea that you could do better than your parents. And that was the case up until about the Cold War, right?
Yes.
So what happened after that?
Well, it all got hijacked and commercialized. And when it became an argument for a consumer capitalist version of democracy, our ideas about the American dream froze in about the 1950s.
1950s, guys, right? So that's when Tim Ward, Alicia Renese, The Upgrade, those folks, they're talking about the idea of a house, 2 cars, a dog, 2.5 kids. That idea, that 1950s idea of the American dream that was hijacked by companies and corporations to commercialize the phrase the American dream.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it froze. That I never had that interpretation of the American dream. That was never my idea. It was always that we were to do better than our parents.
Well, it was that way to me when I watched Leave It to Beaver or something like that, but it wasn't my reality, no.
Well, it was definitely my reality. So I did grow up in a house with a picket fence. There wasn't 2.5 of us, and my parents hated pets, so I didn't get a dog. But we had the 2 cars and all of that because the income gap back in those days was not as great, right? It wasn't like the Gilded Age. And so we lived across the street from doctors and stuff. Even though my parents were still in college, we had Toyotas, they had Cadillacs. That's how it was.
Okay.
All right. So I think the first thing that we had to do when talking about the American dream and why we haven't given up on the American dream is because we are dedicated here on this channel to growing generational wealth, to building generational wealth.
Yes.
And we're American. And so if we're going to build generational wealth, then the idea that our kids will do better than us then can be a reality because we are making it so. So do we think that the American systems are still in place to foster that American dream? Yes and no.
Yeah, no.
Right? Not the way it looked. Like I'm an older Gen X, he's a baby boomer. The ideas that our parents had on what it was going to take to succeed, to do better than them, it's just not the case anymore.
No,
right?
It's not.
So, I mean, okay. So my parents, well, my grandfather was a tipped wage earner. He was a tipped wage earner all of his life, and he only graduated from 11th grade. He was able to provide for 4 kids in a 3-bedroom house on basically one income for their entire childhood. Right now, he didn't understand going to college because he told my mom, why do you need to go to college? You can type, be somebody's secretary. And that was her dream, just to be somebody's secretary. And she ended up being the first Black female associate producer on television. But yeah. But that was her own thing, right? That was her doing. All she learned was graduate from high school because her parents didn't, and get that good job, right?
Yeah.
What about your parents?
But that was, back in the time, my father went to college, but he dropped out because his father had an accident and passed away. So he dropped out of college to come home to help out his mother and the rest of the family and stuff like that. But he did go to college, I believe, for 2 years.
And when was your father born?
1920.
Okay.
I want to say 23.
Just the fact that you said 1920 something for a Black man to have gone to a few years of college.
Yes.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And so then the notion is you've got to do better than that. And for some, that could be a lot of pressure. So when we started talking
I got to do better than that.
That's what the American dream is.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Right? That's the American dream. Right? So we can hear you. Oh, thank you, Tracy. Thank you. Latonya. Hey, y'all. Wait, let's say
Hey, Court.
All right. So we got to say hi to some folks who are here in the chat here. Hi. When family comes, when your family shows up, that means you're doing something right. Because, family's going to give you a hard time, right? Thank you, Tracy. So Tracy and her wife will be on our show in a few weeks. So you will have to tune back in. And our daughter, Courtney, is on. Hey, Court.
Hey, Court.
And so we're happy to see all of you guys. But we're going to continue talking. And what I want to hear is what your version of the American dream is. And if you think it is achievable. So put that in the chat. If you're watching us in the replay, put that in the chat, put that in the comments, because YouTube will tell us and we will definitely respond. So we were talking about building generational wealth and our kids doing better. And then, so what did I do? We're going to refer to this meeting, this meeting that we had about 6 years ago
Our financial advisor
meeting, right? That was pivotal in changing the way we look at our finances, right? So we had this meeting, and he asked, what are you trying to achieve, and what do you want to do? And I said, I want to make sure that we leave something for our kids so that they don't have to start from scratch. And at the time, he looked at how much money we had in the bank and how much was in our 401k.
He was nice. He didn't laugh out loud.
No, because we were not that family that was $400 away from an emergency.
No,
right?
we weren't.
I made sure, my thing was we were never going to have less than $10,000 in our savings account. And so I made sure that we never had less than $10,000 in our savings account, even if we were putting a bunch of stuff on credit cards to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah. So we had this meeting. And so what did I do? My idea of building generational wealth was to buy an insurance policy, a life insurance policy right? And so if I die, at least my kids are going to have this life insurance policy. And that's my passing on of the American dream to my kids, life insurance policy.
Most likely is going to be enough to bury you.
Well, no, because we got a $65,000 policy. So that was going to be more than just burying. But, if we didn't do it right after probate and everything else, maybe they would have been left with $10,000. And what is that going to do?
Yeah.
Right? So that's when I realized.
bury you in a nice suit.
Bury me in a nice suit. I'm not going to be buried. I already told y'all how we're going to
Okay, let's not even go there.
I already told y'all how we're going to do that. We are not wasting money on doing those things. If you see us looking over there, guys, it's because our notes are over there and we're kind of trying a different setup, and I want to make sure that we don't forget anything. All right, so we bought a life insurance plan, which we just canceled because we got smart enough to know if we have more money in our retirement and savings account than the life insurance policy is worth. Why are we paying for that? Why are we paying for that? I don't know. So we stopped paying for that. And so, that's whatever your comfort level is. But the other thing that I realized is when building generational wealth, and you look at the traditional 401k. So I've always had a 401k. And the first time that I got into a 401k, I want to say I was at Spelling Entertainment. And I was pretty young. I think I was still in my 20s. And they set me up. They had someone come and talk to us. So I'm still in my 20s. The expectation was that I was going to retire at 65. So they put me in some kind of age-based mutual fund for people in their 20s who are going to retire 30 years later.
Right.
Which starts off really aggressive and then gets more conservative as it goes on. But here's the key, guys. Here's the key. The thing about it is the assumption is I'm going to spend down all of that money within my lifetime and leave nothing for my kids. So that's what's wrong with those 401k mutual programs, products.
But a lot of people get the 401s and they're not thinking of that. They're not thinking of generational wealth. They're just more or less thinking about retirement for me.
Right.
So
How can I retire?
Sure, I can get things done. But what our thing had always been was in discussing different things was we don't want our kids or our family to have to start over and over and over and over like we had to do, because we like to sell houses and move on to another house.
A bigger house.
And then, when the kids come along, it's like, well, you can get yours. I got mine, you can get yours. And we need to stop that.
Yeah, we definitely do. And you talked about Social Security and pensions and things like that, because that was the idea. You would just work for that. And so stick around to the end, especially if you're watching this to the replay, because we're going to give you 3 tips on how you can live on Social Security alone. Just on one Social Security check. All right. So, but that was the idea that you would get your pension or something like that. You'd have your 401k. When you died, it would go away. You'd spend it all down. Spend it all down, and the next generation would just start over. And so for me, I had to relook at not only what the American dream looked like, but what success looked like for me and what doing better than my parents looked like for me. Because my mom was the first Black female producer on a network show. My father won a local area television Emmy Award. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot to live up to do better than.
Yeah.
And I put all of that pressure on myself. So when we're talking about the American dream and living up to that and what our ideas are and our mindset, my idea of success meant this Black excellence, right? I got to be, if they were that, then what do I got to do? I got to be the first something. I got to do this. I got to do that. And so when I made the decision to retire, I was up for a big job.
Yeah. Very
right?
big job. Yeah.
Very big. So it was almost promised, not 100% promised because I had to get elected. But one of the things is that the person who has it now was going to endorse me. And so that's almost kind of like a guarantee. I'm going to pause right there because Celeste is saying American dream used to be owning a home and traveling when I retired. And that's the thing. And by the time my mom retired, she had grown a phobia to flying. Right? And so I don't want our kids to have to wait. I didn't wait. We didn't wait to start doing traveling, but we didn't necessarily do it the right way. That's for sure. Yeah. So I was up for this big job months ago when I made the decision to retire. And so what I had to do is reevaluate not only what success looked like for me, but how much of my own self-worth was tied up into this notion of me being the big cheese, the jefe, the HNIC, folks. We know what that is, right? How much of my own self-worth was tied up in that, and was that prohibiting me from moving forward? And that's a process.
That is. It is.
That's a process.
Yeah, I never looked at I have to do better than my father. I mean, it was just a thing in me that just drove me because of my ambitions and my wants and stuff. I didn't just want to settle for anything. I didn't, and I understand a lot of people's things are, owning a home. I owned a home. I owned plenty of different homes. With the never had a white picket fence, but, had different things like that. So a lot of people would say, well, you've achieved the American dream. But I didn't achieve the American dream.
I mean, how many times we've had the houses?
Yeah.
We've had the cars, we've had the Mercedes, we've had the Range Rovers and all of that. The Jag, we traded in our Jag for a Subaru, baby. Right? So we've had all of that, and yet, right? Because in my mind, doing well, like we were being successful and doing well, that means we're making our payments. Baby, we are making our payments on time, right?
Right.
Just like we said
That's
last week.
the most important thing, isn't it? Making your payments.
We were making our payments. And so, but because we were making our payments, we were on that hamster wheel of debt. And I couldn't see 3 or 4 years ago when we had that meeting, I could not see how we were going to get to the place where we are today, right? Where we are retired, where we've got our tickets in hand to go to Portugal to check that out,
yes.
Right? We've got our next tickets in hand to go to Mexico to check that out. So and today's Sunday, and it's going to be 3:00 in an hour or so, and I'm not dreading it.
Mm-mm.
I'm not dreading that feeling of having to go back to work. So that's part of the American dream for us, right? And providing for our girls, right? We all want to provide.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I always part of my American dream was being able to leave something, but not just leave something. It's more important. There's other more important things than to just say, I'll leave $1 million to my kids and they can fight over it. It's more important to show them what to do, how to do, to get the things that they need to do to keep making it grow, to make themselves grow. You don't just want to give. I mean, we've all experienced them when we were kids. I want this for Christmas. I want that for Christmas. And then you get all that stuff and you play with it for about 5 minutes and you walk away from it. And you go grab sticks and
big box,
rocks outside, or the box itself.
Right, yeah. The box itself, and you make a fort out of the box.
And your parents just mortgaged everything to get you what you wanted.
Right? Oh my gosh. How many of you went into debt Christmas time to buy all these toys for your kids just to find them playing with the pots and pans in the box that it came in? So Professor LCH is with us. I know she found us from Stephanie Perry because I know who you are, Professor LCH. So thank you for finding us. Yes, definitely. So, I want to get back to a changing of the mindset because this is the thing that holds so many of us back. This is the thing that holds us back from getting financially independent. This is the thing that holds us back from our dreams. And it's this we're going to say it, keeping up with the Joneses. What I had, the job that I had to give up to get this new life, right, was a keep up with the Joneses job, right? It was going to keep up with the Joneses money. It came with keep up with the Joneses clout and access to the important people, including all the way to the White House, right? Like it was a very important job. And so I had to ask myself, and this is something that I heard Stephanie Perry say, and Professor LCH reminded me, just seeing your name up there, girlfriend, reminded me of what she said. And she said, when you're looking for that next thing to do, we Black overachievers, whether it is the next degree, right, that contract, or that next promotion, what is it that we want? What is what feelings are we hoping to get from that? And is there another way to get that same feeling? So, if for me, being the Leo ham person that I am, if for me it was the accolades, no, starting a YouTube channel was not the solution.
No.
That was not the solution. We started a YouTube channel because we figured out how to crack the code. We figured out how to retire within 3 years, how to go from negative $22,000 in net wealth to over 800,000, right,
yeah,
in net wealth in 3 years. That's why we started the YouTube channel, because there were 3 couples that we knew that were working harder than us, who had made more money than us, who are still working so hard. And we're like, they need to crack the code. They need to follow us, travel with us, because we've traveled with them before. They know who we're talking about. And retire. It's time to retire. It's time to stop working so hard. So I had to think about, was that my ego? What was it? What was it that was preventing me from adding this new thing in my life, this thing that I said that I wanted, which was for me and my husband to work together, chill, to work on our passion projects, and to travel the world? Do I need those accolades more than I need the dream that we said we have wanted for 20 years?
Right. What's going to make you happy? Where's your happiness going to be?
Yeah.
And a lot of people they don't find that happiness because they feel they have to do something else. They got to stay on the hamster wheel in order to achieve what they want to achieve to be happy.
Or they're afraid, right? There's a lot of comfort in knowing that you're going to get that check every week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right? There's a lot of comfort in knowing that. And there's a lot of insecurity in trying to do what you want to do. You also have to put up with people not being happy with your choices. My mother told me, I like that job for you. Even though with everything, y'all know that I am right now a caretaker to my dad who has cognitive disabilities, and I'm trying to work with the healthcare system to find help, right? So I'm doing that. Doing the wife thing and working full time as second in command at that job. It was a lot. I was stressed the heck out, wasn't I?
You both were.
How much was I smiling?
Not until we were getting ready to go to sleep.
Right?
Yeah. That was about it.
Right? I thought I was happy because I was on my way to the job that I thought I wanted. But my body was telling me that I was not happy. Right? And your body was telling you the same thing, and it's still telling you that.
My goodness, it's like it's a big burden or relief off of your shoulders. It's working for a company and doing everything because we go to work and we got to make sure everything is done just right. A lot of people in the younger generations don't get that. So it's like, why are you working so hard to do this? Because my generation grew up. This is how you have to do
work
things.
Twice as hard to get half as far,
Right.
half the recognition, everything else, right? That's how we were taught. But we did not get paid a dime more for that double work, did we? No, what we did was we made ourselves indispensable, so they didn't want to give us the promotion because we were doing so well in that job right over there.
Yes.
Right? I tell you. So for me, what I had to do is once I realized what the feeling was that I was trying to replace, then I could get down to what I could replace it with. And what I figured out was I wanted the feeling of abundance. That's what I wanted. And making a lot of money gives me the feeling of abundance. However, we already have financial independence, and that feels like abundance. And like we said last week, you can afford anything, just not everything. I think it's Paula Pant, who was the original person who said that. I got it from Picky Girl Travels the World. But yeah, you can afford anything, just not
Not
everything.
everything.
And so I have replaced that external representation of abundance with true abundance and a feeling of abundance that comes from my faith in God. And that he's going to provide, because he always does. He always does. Sometimes I say she. You guys will hear me say she, he. That's who I am. Even though I'm a Christian, that's who I am.
Yeah.
All right. So, right? I mean, so I want to hear from you. What is your idea of the American dream? Has that changed? Has what you heard today changed your idea of what the American dream is? And can we do like LGBTQ and take back that term on and make it the original meaning? And the original meaning is that there are opportunities in this country that allow for the next generation to do better than the previous. Right? And so if the systems are not providing those opportunities, then we have to provide those opportunities for our families, our friends, and our tribe, our community, right? Our fellow utopians, right? We have to provide those opportunities. And so let's get to some comments, and then we'll
Yeah.
see where we're at. Okay. So yay. So I felt like I was pressured by the schools I went to, but never taught us how to get there by managing the money. So Courtney, explain, do you mean pressured? Were you pressured with the payments? Because that's the whole student loan scheme is just, it's a racket. It's a racket, and it's a way in which unequal countries allow for private corporations to take public tax money and put it into private pockets. That's what it's about. So I don't suggest that anyone ever take out a private loan for school or anything like that. Stick with the government loans, because those are the ones that are going to go away. So Sandra, you said, tell us more about that. I don't know when you typed that. So if you could just tell us more about what you want us to tell us more about, that would be great. I haven't had to spend money like I used to do. I had to play catch up. Now I tell them, it's not your birthday.
It's Jesus' birthday.
I love it, right? Because oh my gosh, I remember counting the gifts to make sure it felt like he was getting a lot. As he got older, we're talking about our youngest Jabari. As he got older, we went to one big one and then the necessities, right? Like when iPods first came out, he got an iPod, then he got the necessities, the pajamas and all of that stuff that he needed. But when he was really young, I was bad. I was so bad. And it's a good thing when he was really young, I didn't have a lot of credit cards, because I'd probably still be paying those things off. And I'm going to call him out. I'm going to call him out. Because when we first got together, he said... You
calling me out?
I'm calling him out on camera live.
Should I leave the room?
No. When we first got together, he said if he could afford to buy... We have a blended family. If he could afford to buy his daughter a Mercedes, he would. And I said, what did she do to deserve a Mercedes?
Well, that's the father, the pride of a father's love for his children. I mean...
So you heard that. I know my husband loves his children, because otherwise I would not have married him. Hello. But that's how he thought he needed to show love, was by buying her Mercedes. This child did not deserve a Mercedes any more than the man on the moon deserves a Mercedes or needs a Mercedes.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I was thinking in a frame of mind of multi-millions of dollars.
American
and it really
dream.
make a difference.
American dream.
Yeah, but I mean, I've learned a lot since then, and no.
Okay, so what have you learned?
I've learned that that's not the important thing. that doesn't do any good. Like I said, teach them how to obtain wealth on their own, help them along the way, but don't give it to them.
Right.
Because it won't be appreciated. It won't be understood. I mean,
Nope.
what was the I'm terrible with Bible phrases or parables or whatever, but teach a man, give a man a fish and he can eat for a day, but teach him the fish he can feed,
Right. Is that from the Bible? Somebody who's better than us, because there's a lot of things that people say are from the Bible
My mama used to say that.
that are not necessarily from the Bible. And I'm only seeing YouTube comments. If you are watching us on Facebook, if you are watching us on LinkedIn, I don't know. I'm not seeing your comments. There's a Facebook comment. So Eric, hi Eric. He's on Facebook, so that's good. I do see that. All right, and we're going to get back to the comments. Let's see. I feel like I'm pressured. Say that again, Mom, for the ones in the back.
What's Daniel saying?
So, all right, let's get down the opportunities piece. That my dream is to live in the country
And be happy.
So, to live in which country, Daniel? To live in this country and be happy. I always had a dream of living abroad ever since I found out that a lot of the old entertainers lived abroad and thrived. And because I've always wanted to be an entertainer, that was one of my lifelong dreams. I just always thought. And so when I was really young, it was going to be Canada. And I was put in French in high school. I wanted Spanish. They put me in French, parlez-vous français. And so I was going to get fluent by going to Canada, because the notion of going to France or even West Africa was too big. It was too big of a dream. So I was going to spend a semester in Canada, which is right across the way, right? And then come back, and I was going to be all fluent and, show the Joneses how sophisticated and black excellency I am, right?
Oh, Lord.
Right? That's what I was going to do. So part of my American dream was not living here for my entire life. And then I met someone whose dreams were similar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Christopher. Hey, son.
Hi, son. Why are the schools asking for more money each year for our youth, elementary and junior high school? All right, so I guess we're going to get a little bit into politics, and my kids know that I ran for city council, and then I know about these things. But the truth of the matter is that schools usually are asking for more money when the money is going too much to middle management. If there are too many layers in a school district, then that's why they're asking for too much money, or asking for more money. Either that, or your property taxes are not high in the first place. So in California and in New York, the property taxes are out of control, right? But for that, you get free education. Here in Colorado, we have some of the lowest property taxes, and we're like 48th or 47th in funding for our schools. About 80% of our school districts can only afford to have school 4 days a week.
Right.
Your property taxes, folks, across the nation go to pay for your cops and your firefighters, your schools, and your libraries. That's where your taxes, that's where your property taxes go, okay? And so if you have low property taxes and you want them lower, that's going to take away from schools.
You're going to lose services.
That's what's going to happen, all right? And so what they want to do is they want to create charter schools. That's what they want to do. They want to privatize our school system. So they keep defunding the school system. Then they call it broken so that they can privatize it. So their friends who own, whatever company that provides either curriculum or whatever can then come into your school, take it over, privatize it, public money into private hands. I said I wasn't going to get into this.
Yeah, you did say you weren't going to get into politics. You just can't help yourself, though,
I
can
can't. I can't. I feel like we were pressured that the only way for us to be successful was to go to school no matter what, no matter how. Yes. And Courtney, that was the case, right? Courtney's Gen X, right? That is the case. That was the case. That's what we thought. In order to do this thing, that you had to have that 4-year degree. The American dream meant 4-year degree, right? Or 6 years if you were going to get your master's or a terminal degree like a PhD or medical degree or something like that. But guess what, folks? You can go and get a Google certificate and get that 6-figure job at Google.
At Google.
Without getting into debt. And so, or go work at a job where they'll pay your tuition for you. Because
like an Apple or
I mean, and here and the thing is if we think that we can save 10% and that our Social Security, unless you stick around to the end and get the tips and then do the tips, right? That your Social Security is gonna do it. It's just not. It's just not. And that 10% is not enough. It's just not enough.
But if you're talented too, and a lot of people have made it without education. I'm not knocking education, but education is for everybody. But going to college is not for everybody. Some people just are made to be a student in college, but they have other talents in order to do it. I'll give a shout out to Courtney. Courtney makes fantastic cheesecakes. Fantastic. You have to realize and know your talents and your passions. And a lot of times, Kentucky Fried Chicken? Dude made chicken. And that was a passion of his. It took him till he was like 80 years old or something like that to start. But, what kind of education did he have? What kind of education does a lot of billionaires have?
Yep.
It's like they don't all have,
crazy
education.
But here's the thing with Black folks, and I'm going to say this, and then LaTanya reminded me of something, but we're going to talk about the code. We're going to talk about the code, Sandra. But you're absolutely right. You are absolutely right. I remember the person who did Famous Amos. I met Famous Amos. And so all of you, LaTanya Taylor met Famous Amos. Famous Amos chocolate chip cookies. I don't know if they're on the East Coast, but they're at least in Colorado and west of here.
Right.
And so this Black man worked at NBC with my mom and dad and would make cookies and bring them to work. And that's how it started, up at NBC. Mm-hmm. Oh, I remember those cookies. They were so good. That was the Cannonball Adderley days. That was a long time ago. And so this was the 70s. And he brought those cookies to work. And now look, Famous Amos cookies, right? So how do we crack the code? Okay. I got to get some water. I'm gonna talk about this. My mouth is getting dry. I got to get some water. How do you crack the code? The first thing about cracking the code, and this is so obvious, we talked about it last week, and we're going to say it every single time because it took me until I was 55 years old to figure it out. And that is live within your means.
Live within your means.
I had to drink water. Last time I got a straw. And don't bring up the politics.
No, I'm not.
Who am I talking about? All right. So live within your means. And it's as simple as that. So if you make $4,000 a month, you don't spend $4,000 a month, right? The first thing you do is you take 30% of that and you put it aside. You just put it aside. So what is 30% from 4,000? $1,200 less, right? So I don't know, I can't do math. I'm not a math person. $3,800, that sounds about right. So now you get to live off of $2,800. $2,800 a month. That's what you get to live off of. $2,800 a month. Not $2,800 a month plus whatever your credit cards have on them. Not $2,800 a month plus that payday loan that you're going to get to and the layaway and no. $2,800. That's it. And so once again, it's about you can afford anything, not everything. If you cannot live off of $2,800 where you're at, move. And so that's called, geo arbitrage, right? You move to where you can live on $2,800 a month.
Yes.
And if this pandemic did not teach us anything, it taught us, like Sheeta was just talking about this morning, right? Sheeta's on the loose. If you have a computer and most of the work that you do is on a computer, then you can live anywhere.
You can live anywhere.
And if you have the type of job where they don't want you to live anywhere, change jobs, because it is an employee's market right now, right? The Great Resignation means that there are a lot of jobs out there, and if you've got the skill set and you've got the resume, find another job.
Find another job.
Find another job. Find another job. Find another job. So the first part of the code is to live within your means. And we said last week, if the payment fits, we gets. I really, really thought that living within your means that you were making all your payments on time.
Yeah, it's not.
You got your furniture and you put your $10 down, and then you're gonna put $10 down a month and you make your payments, girl. You make your payments, right?
No.
I had my payments. My payments were being made. The problem was, after all the payments were made, there was no money left over. There was no money left over to save for a future business idea.
To pay yourself. There's nothing left to pay yourself.
There was
and that's
no
the first thing you always do.
Thank you.
Is you pay you.
You can't pay you.
You're the most important thing in your life.
Thank you.
You are the most important thing in your life. Say it to yourself. I am the most important thing in my life. Because without me, nothing gets done.
None of that other stuff. So not the gold chain, not that Prada bag, and certainly not those red bottoms, right? Not the red bottoms. So, I mean, I told you guys last week, I have dresses that I bought, and I bought them and did not try them on because I have it like that, right? Did not try them on. When I finally could fit them, it was the pandemic, and now they're too big. So, and because we operate in a fast fashion world where we buy and throw away, they're not worth selling. Thankfully, I follow this YouTuber who taught me how to do quick renovations or, alterations. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing is live within your means, and the second thing is pay yourself first.
Definitely.
Rick and I got to the point where we were saving anywhere from 40 to 70% of our income on average, no less than 50%. Usually 50% of our income we were saving. And when we were really good, 70% of our income we were saving.
And another thing that's good, if you can do it, if you're a married couple, try to live off of one income.
Yeah.
If you can. And try to live off the lowest income. And take that other income.
Yes.
And invest. If you need to save some, save some. But saving is going to get you where you want to go. Invest your money. Keep paying yourself. And make it work like that. Because when you are... We've been in the situation before. When she was running for office... she wasn't bringing any income in, so we were living off our income, and we saw that we could live off of one income.
Well, I did have my own business. So,
you had your own business,
and that was bringing in a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But we saw that about $1,200 a month, though.
Yeah.
$1,200 a month, but we saw we could live off of one.
We could live off of one income. If you can do that, by any means, do it. You'd be surprised because you find out that when you have to live off of one income, or when you force yourself to live off of one income, and it's not uncomfortable, then you really realize all that other stuff that you were buying all along with the two incomes, you don't need.
You didn't need it at all, right? And I can't tell you how much money I have spent. And the other part of the code, I just wanted to say, the other part of the code, the last piece is you don't have to keep a car payment. So I grew up, that's our dog over there doing sneezing and everything else. I grew up thinking that you're always supposed to have a car payment. As soon as the car wears out, you go get it every 4 years. My parents had new cars. And so there were certain things you do. You breathe, you live, you be black, right? You pay taxes, you have a car payment.
Not necessary.
So that's another thing that we stopped doing. We stopped buying new cars and we stopped the notion that we had to keep a car payment. So we tried to pay them off as quickly as possible, by putting big down payments and getting low interest rates and just paying it off. So let's see what else you guys are talking about. At this point, I'm not sure the American dream is anything other than keeping my options open and leaning into the power of the American passport. Tell us more. Profess LCH.
That passport is very powerful.
And so one of the things that we found out is that our dream life was a lot less expensive than we thought. Our dream life is less expensive than our current life.
Yes.
That's part of the code. Our dream life, living life abroad, bopping around the planet, filming and doing the things that we want to do is less expensive than our current life. And so when we did the math and looked at how much money we had saved, how much money we had coming in, and what our expenses were, because remember, we don't have any consumer debt, no debt, right? Debt-free life. It was like, wait a minute, we could do this thing.
Yeah.
We could do this thing.
Do this.
The conventional wisdom says that if you are making, let's just say, you're making $80,000 a year right now, that you have to have 80,000 times 30 years to retire. So 8 times 3 is 24. So what, 2.4 million, I guess? Something like that? I don't know. I'm not a math person, but it's something like that. I know 8 times 3 is 24. That I know. I don't do the zeros well. You guys do the zeros for me. But that's just not the case, because your dream life just might not cost as much as you think. So assignment number 1, how much does your dream life cost? Have you figured that out? Have you even figured that out, right? So we've got our siblings talking to each other here. We own a house. The dream, right? Tracy lives in the same city as my cousin. As college-educated Black LGBTQ women, we make far less than any other couples, right? Ain't that a B? Then the 2 Chads who are together, right? We hustle, pinch, and save. It's much more than we thought, but not nearly what we need. I'm sorry. I'm looking over the camera. This is not going to work. I'm going to have to look over here. That's what I'm going to do. So that I understand. And we can talk about the fact that there is inequality in incomes, and we know that, right? So obviously, if you are an LGBTQ couple and you are female, you're going to get less than the LGBTQ couple that is male. And we know that Black women are some of the lowest on the totem pole. We know that Black women who have a master's degree make the same amount of money as white boys that have an AA degree. We know that. We know that. And we're still here to tell you, we want you to work less, and that there is a way to work less, become financially independent, and have that American dream life. But we want you to challenge assumptions on what that dream life is and make sure that the American dream that we're talking about is your American dream.
Your American dream.
And not the American dream that somebody else wants for you.
Can't live everybody else's American dream, because it's definitely not the same.
Right? It's not. I have expenses I am paying on, and they just told me, what? She may not get her diploma or get to participate in the ceremony.
Okay, so not being in the ceremony, I mean, that's a personal thing. If you just need to be in the ceremony, I mean, I get it. Not getting the diploma doesn't mean that she didn't get the education or the credits for the education.
I want to know if this is, Courtney, I'm assuming that you're talking about high school. Yeah, they did this to me too. You don't remember, but we owed money. We owed money. And this is the thing. This is our public education system, guys. This is it. This is it. This is what we're talking about. Public money, right? What do you mean I owe you money? And I'm assuming we're talking about a public high school. So let us know in the comments if that's what you mean. When did you first start seriously thinking about and planning to retire abroad? That's a great question. That's a great question. So
Well,
you start.
no, go on.
Because I mean, so we started talking about a nomad type of life before I went to grad school.
Before you went to grad school, and when you went to grad school, we had the opportunity to go to South Africa. What would you call it? It wasn't a thesis that you were doing.
No, it was a fellowship.
Fellowship.
It was a fellowship. So as part of my graduate program, I went to, everybody had to pick an international trip. So all the international trips, none of them included the continent. And then when the continent of Africa came up, I'm like, yeah. And I got to teach kids entrepreneurship. Come on now. You know that was me.
And I got to film all of it.
And he filmed of it. So I brought Rick and our son Jabari, and they filmed what I was doing, and they filmed what other teachers were doing as well. And it was an incredible one month experience in South Africa.
And that really opened my eyes up to saying that I wanted to experience more with other cultures and other countries and stuff like that. And then, of course, we took the trip to Europe.
And I think, so he had traveled before that. We had traveled before that. But the difference is, and this is the thing that is wonderful that we want to share with you. If you travel, but you've only traveled as a tourist, the part that you may not experience is living like a local. So when we were in South Africa, we stayed in a bed and breakfast because this was before Airbnb. So we stayed in a bed and breakfast, which was the guest house of a family that lived there in Stellenbosch, which is a suburb of Cape Town. And so we lived in their backyard.
Yeah.
We basically lived in their backyard in a neighborhood, walked the neighborhood, went to the local stores, had our local coffee shop. We don't like the coffee. And the bakeries and everything else. And so they got to know us for that month, and we really got to see what life was like. Mm-hmm. Living there, not just doing tourist stuff, but living there.
Yeah, it's different when you live somewhere and you experience the different things than when a tourist, you're there for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then you're out.
You don't talk to the locals really unless it's the tour guide, right? So I was teaching locals, I was working with locals, we were living with locals, we were living like locals in a local neighborhood. And it was like, oh, okay. We took the internet down. Yeah. So if you're a digital nomad, South Africa may not be the place for you yet.
It might be now. No.
No. I don't care, baby girls. I know you might be in the audience. No. So, but that was the first time that we could see ourselves living outside of America. Because when you're American, our country is so physically big that it's hard to imagine a life outside of America, or that they have the same amenities, because we're American and we think everything is better here.
We're used to certain things, and
so that was first.
Yeah, that was the first one.
He sounds like he's still struggling around wanting to get their daughter that Benz.
Who, me?
You still struggling with that?
No, we've had talks about that.
She says she can still hear that need in you.
I want the kids to have everything. The way I look at it now is I want to be able to teach them, to share with them, to become independently, I'm not going to say independently wealthy, financially independent, so they can pass it on and keep it moving forward in the family more than buying somebody a Benz. Because as I've talked to my daughter before, one of them that had the idea of doing it, it's like, baby,
you can't afford no Benz. You can't afford to keep it up. You buy a Benz,
you got a whole lot of other stuff. You know how much it costs to change the tire on the Benz or to change the tail light on the Benz? And then they're going to charge you higher insurance. Is that what you really, really want to spend your money on? So, no, I'm not. I want her or all of them to have much, much better things and
But you know what?
be able to get on their own.
Daniel brings up a good point, because I think that we have had opportunities and that desire to give our kids
To give,
everything that
yes.
we couldn't get ourselves, right? That we could not get, that our parents could not give to us. And so Daniel said, but the one pro about growing up with less opportunities is that you start getting smart with money, responsible with money.
Right.
You don't take it for granted. You don't waste it, right? And so my parents were born in the projects. They were first generation educated, right? So the pros and cons. There's pros and cons, pros and cons, pros and cons. So I texted you this morning, Courtney, because this morning I'm just going to go out there. On Cheetahs on the Loose, they were talking about healthcare remotely, all right? So you got to go back there and watch that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, USA equals greed. It equals greed. I'm a little bit behind in the comments, guys. I'm going to catch up. So you remember Famous Amos. I still love those cookies. As far as store-bought cookies, those are still my favorite.
Yeah.
They're still my favorite.
I always
Chip
like
Ahoy and
Famous
all that
Amos.
other stuff. Before I thought my purpose was the world systems. Now my purpose is greater than my 9 to 5. Hello.
Yes.
Right? A lot of us, especially this whole notion of Black excellence and overachieving and all of that stuff, a lot of us get caught up in our worth being part of how much money we make and what status our job has.
Yeah. You ever go to a party and
I love it.
I know guys, it happens to guys maybe more than it happens to women, but you go to a party, I go to functions with her or something like that, and the first thing they ask me is, so what do you do? What do you do for a living? And it's like, why the hell? Ain't none of your damn business.
Right? I remember when
I don't care what you do.
right? How come, and this is an American thing. I know there's probably other countries, but I know in America here, this is the one thing that, the first thing you do, hi, my name's Halisi, and this is what I do. My mom said an old friend called her. This is when I was still working, but still just a few months ago. And an old friend called and says, well, how's Halisi doing? How is Halisi doing? And my mom said, girl, she's over in Colorado running things. Quote unquote. She's over there in Colorado running things. And I said, Mom, she didn't ask you what I was doing. She asked you how I was doing.
Yeah.
How am I doing? And I'm going to tell you how I'm doing. I'm doing bad. That's how I'm doing. I'm bad. I'm horrible. I'm tired. I'm worn out. I'm depleted. I'm doing too much. I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off, and I'm trying to please everybody, and I'm unhappy. I'm miserable. I'm losing weight, and my hair is falling out. That's how I'm doing. I'm doing crappy. But in her mind, because I was running things, I'm doing great. We are not our jobs.
No.
We are not our jobs.
No, you're not
Right?
whatsoever. But we get sucked into it and we think that we are.
When I wanted, when I wanted to be an entertainer, then maybe you are. I am an educator that's just who I am. That's my natural gift, to entertain and to educate. So yeah, I am that. That is who I am, but I am not an executive director, right? I am not whatever the thing was that I was. And in America, that's just what we do.
Yeah, we do.
That's just what we do. So the cracking the code was kind of how you can live off of Social Security. So I still want you to stick to the end because I'm going to repeat it. So yes, high school. It was public high school. See? Public high school, taking your money. Mm-hmm. Taking your money. All right. I think I have caught up. Do we have any more questions before we wrap it up on how you can live off of Social Security alone? I'm going to recommend some things before we go. First of all, are we going to make the announcement about the challenge?
Let's do that. But first,
Okay.
let's first say So our attorney will be happy with us.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
What is that we should be saying?
All right. So we are not financial advisors, but financial educators. All right. What we are telling you is our opinion. You should always have a plan and do your own research. If you invest in the stock market does go down from time to time and you can lose money. However, historically, it has gone up if you can afford to leave it in long enough. So if you have a question, put a Q and I'll scroll through and find them right quick. But we do have an announcement that we want to make because we have a challenge coming up at the beginning of May.
Right.
So at the beginning of May, and I'll put this in the chat as well if you want to click on it. Where is it? Here it is. So at the beginning of May, we have our spring spending cleanup challenge, and we are only taking 100 folks or less. All right, that's it because we want to make sure that we can review everybody's plan. But it's a Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's 3 days of group coaching, 3 days of assignments to get your spending under control so that you can understand how you're spending money, what you're spending it on, and then come up with a plan to start saving for financial independence.
Right.
So that's the spending cleanup challenge that we're starting for spring. It starts in May, and I'm going to put that link in the chat. So let's see, here we go. And so that's there. You can feel free to click on that if you're watching in the replay. It is already in the description. And then also, if you have not gotten our Ready to Retire toolkit, you have heard me talk about this at least 3 or 4 times today. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of helpful resources in our toolkit that's free. So I'm going to put that in the chat as well because everyone likes freebies. Oh, that's the challenge again. I don't want to put that. The challenge is not free. It's $27 because we find that people value what they have to pay for. And because my accountability girls said, don't give it away for free. So I definitely was going to do that. I was going to do that. So I will put our Ready to Retire toolkit in the chat as well. And you guys can click on that if you don't already have it. The Ready to Retire toolkit also comes with a series of emails to kind of walk you through the toolkit. And so it's kind of like a mini lesson. So if you want to get that, I put the spending challenge in there twice. So that's in the disclosures. Thank you, Tanya. That is in the chat. And what do you mean? What do I do for a living? Ooh, living. I live for a living. Okay. We got our audience dropping those pearls of wisdom. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, on our, what do you call it? Your board, the board.
Our vision board.
Our vision board. I took a quote saying just that, living for a living.
Yeah, it's right over there.
Okay.
It's right over there. Yep. I want to
I
live
like
for a
that
living.
so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. So, I think we have done it. You know why we still believe in the American dream? The reason we still believe in the American dream is because we are living our version of the American dream. We're making sure that we are saving for the next generation and that we are investing our money because that's the only way you can grow wealth is to invest. You cannot save your way to this.
We didn't say some of the things that we're doing as far as the generational wealth.
Okay, go for it.
You know, so what we're doing, we put our money where our mouth is. You know, and one of the things that we turned around and did, well, you know, we sat down with an attorney and we put together a family trust.
Yes.
And we put our properties and everything goes to the family trust. So
why would we put things in a family trust?
well, it's more protected, and you know you have a board of people, members in the family, or whoever you choose to, you know, it's covered. You have a lot more coverage with the legal coverage with the family trust. You don't have to worry about going through probate and all that craziness because you don't want to send your family through probate. Yeah. Now, you know, we've sat down and it can be depressing when you're doing it, but creating the wills or creating your living wills, you want to make sure you have all that kind of stuff done because it can turn into a nightmare.
Yeah, what's
really,
depressing is not having your stuff together and leaving your kids to manage the
to
burden.
manage it.
That's depressing as someone who is currently going through it with a parent who did not have their stuff together and I'm having to do it all for them. Don't do that to your kids, folks. Do not do that to your kids. And so in the Ready to Retire Toolkit, we do have a series of questions that you should ask yourself, right? Are you planning to leave assets to someone else? Do you want those assets to be taxed by the government or not? Do you want them to go through probate or not? And if not, then perhaps a family trust, revocable family trust is something that you might want to do. Mm-hmm. So you should research that. The other thing that we are doing to build generational wealth is back in October, we started a once a month family Zoom call. And so some of the Chris and Courtney, who are on here, are part of that family Zoom call that we have, and Tanya too, that we have once a month. And so we started that once we figured out that we had cracked the code. Once we had figured out that we did not have to win lotto in order to retire early, that all we had to do was live below our means and take that extra money and invest it, and it would grow in our sleep. Once we figured that out, then we were like, oh my God, we got to share this with the kids.
Share it, yeah.
And if we're going to leave them something, then shouldn't they know what to do with it so that they don't end up broke like most of the lotto winners, like we were talking last week, right? 90% of lotto winners end up broke because they don't know how to handle their money.
They don't know what to do with it except spend it.
Right. So one of the things in the toolkit that we talk about is putting your stuff in a trust, doing that research, get your business taken care of. That way, when you're living your dream, whatever that looks like, which for us is going to be bopping around the planet, we're not having to be worried about if something were to happen to us, are our finances and our estate in order, right? We can bop around in freedom and feel free that we can do that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Anything else before we wrap it up? We've been talking for an hour and 11 minutes, guys. We can stay here and talk all day. What do y'all want to talk about, right? What do you want to talk about?
I mean, we love answering the questions. We love the comments. We love when you comment and share your opinions on everything. We don't know everything. No one knows everything.
No.
So it's always good to share.
Yeah. So we say this is kind of crowdsourcing. The reason why I share so many of our favorite YouTubers, podcasts, and what other people say and do is because, this rugged individualism, that's not part of our American dream. We believe in getting help around here.
Yeah.
We believe in taking shortcuts around here. We believe in hacks around here. And there is no reason that you have to do it alone. There's no reason you have to do it all by yourself. And when we figure stuff out, we're going to share it. And so Choose FI is one of the podcasts that we listen to that they also say that they're crowdsourcing. They come up with a lot of just creative ways to do things that we thought that there was only one way to do it, right? Like you work until you're 65 and then you get to retire. Well, we know lots of people who have retired before 40.
Yeah.
And they retired before 40 and they didn't have a record contract. They weren't a rapper. They didn't play for the NBA. They were teachers and government workers and things like that, right? So it can be done. And once we figured that out and we saw proof from people who look like us, right? From people who look like us, then we're like, okay, kids.
This is achievable. This
let's share this. Let's share this. Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is getting back to, I thought we were finished, but getting back to the American dream, getting back to that feeling, that what is the feeling? What are you chasing? When you're striving, when you can't give up that job, what is the feeling that you're chasing? I said it's a feeling of abundance. For some of the young people that I see, it's a feeling of self-worth. And that self-worth is tied up in not the job itself, but the money and the things that it provides. So if you find another creative way to make the same amount of money, will that be okay with you? Even when some other people say, well, that's not conventional. Well, when are you going to get a real job? because you've pieced together something that is working for you, right? And it's hard sometimes when you want to live in a way that is not the norm, right? We know what conventional wisdom says what we're supposed to do. And conventional wisdom says that at my age, I should still be working because this is my highest income earning time potential. But there's creative ways to do things.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're willing to let go of the fear, because fear sometimes keeps us stuck where we are. So if you're willing to let go of that fear, your dream life is attainable. Your dream life, no matter where you are right now, your dream life is attainable.
Yes, it is.
We're living proof.
Living proof. Yes. So, like us and subscribe to us. Share the knowledge.
Yes.
We love each and every one of you.
Yes, we love you, folks.
Thank you so much for sharing your afternoon with us.
We will see you next week. We have got, on the 24th, we have got Picky Girl Travels the World. If you do not know who she is, then check her out on her YouTube channel, Picky Girl Travels the World. She has lived in 3 or 4 different countries, and she's going to be talking about how to retire abroad. So this is a person who has done it, and she has thought she had done it twice, but it ended up being once or 1.5 times. Anyway, you always want to hear from the people who have done it, right? So she's done it. She's going to be with us April 24th.
She's still doing it.
And yeah, she's retired.
Yeah.
And at 40-something years old. At 40-something years old. Okay, guys? So it can be done. Come with your questions to see how to do it. All right? And otherwise, we'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us on our journey.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. So we want you to build your own Black Utopia, guys. So
Be a utopian.
definitely.
A Black utopian.
See you guys. See you next week.